Alrighty. Got more people filing in, but might just get started here in a moment because we seem to have a good group that's already jumped in. So yeah, I can just jump on in. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for our third Wisconsin Energy Codes Collaborative meeting. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And yeah, it looks like we have a great group of you all on the line so far. So yeah, looking forward to some good discussion. We do have a few new folks who are joining today's call. So I'll introduce myself. My name is Sarah Wells, and I'm a community decarbonization researcher with Slipstream. I'm helping to support the Wisconsin Recce Award, from which we're able to establish this collaborative effort, and I'll be helping to facilitate today's conversation along with a few of my colleagues that you see on the partner list on this slide. And if you haven't already, like the slide says, if you could please fill out the poll that should be in your Teams chat, just indicating which subcommittee you would prefer to be joining this afternoon when we go into breakout rooms. And I'll just quickly note that we had previously been referring to the public interests group as like business interests or advocacy interests, but we did reframe that. So if you were wondering why that name is new, that's why. All right, I'll go to...
Hey, Sarah. I can't see the poll. I don't know if other people are able to see it. That might just be my issue.
I do see the poll like in the chat.
I wonder if because I joined after the poll was launched, it doesn't show up, but that's okay.
Let me see if I can re-share it. Maybe. Cynthia, do you have access actually to poll? Do you have poll access? Maybe you can work on that while I go over the agenda.
Yeah, let me see. If I create a new poll, does that get messy?
If you create a new poll, I think it's probably okay because we're just trying to get some numbers. So.
Okay, cool. I'll do that.
Yeah, sweet. Thanks so much, Cynthia. Okay. Thanks for pointing that out, Emma. Appreciate it. I'll just kick us off by going over our agenda for today's call. So since we have some new folks joining us, I'll do a quick overview of some of the key objectives of our Codes Collaborative group. We'll go over some relevant updates from our Wisconsin Recce project that might be of interest to you all. We'll then have a quick discussion about some of the recent updates from the Uniform Dwelling Code Council meetings, which began taking place monthly since the last time this group gathered in mid-March. I think the first one of those UDCC meetings was maybe like a week after we started, so we can do a quick recap and discussion on that. Then Matt from, thanks Cynthia, that looks perfect. Then Matt from Clean Wisconsin will give us an update on where things are at with the commercial code in Wisconsin and what moving to the 2021 code might look like. We'll then move into breakout rooms for subcommittees for most of the rest of the meeting. And in those subcommittee groups, we're going to start to think about identifying different resources or actions that we can take as a group to advance energy codes in Wisconsin, and thinking about how to start getting those items moving forward over the coming weeks and months. And then lastly, we'll have a few minutes at the end just to share out those priorities identified as subcommittees to the full group and discuss some next steps. So I'll get to the objectives of the Codes Collaborative in just a moment, but I first want to mention kind of what brings our team here to facilitate this meeting today. So our team is working through a Department of Energy award called the Resilient and Efficient Codes Implementation Grant, which we call RECCE for short. It's funded through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. And our project is called Building a Strong Foundation for Energy Codes in Wisconsin. Our overarching goal is to improve resiliency and energy efficiency across the state by working to support stakeholder engagement in code adoption processes, improving code compliance, and also supporting local governments and Native nations that are interested in improving the efficiency and resiliency of their buildings and their communities. And now thinking about why we've established a Codes Collaborative group for Wisconsin through this project. So this group aims to serve as a platform to amplify your voices when it comes to influencing code adoption processes, as well as enforcement and compliance practices. And as a group, we can take action to address common challenges that you might all be observing or experiencing in the field by developing new training resources, conducting research, crafting recommendations as it relates to potentially code provisions or amendments. We've heard some interest amongst folks in possibly considering a stretch code in Wisconsin. That's something we could possibly talk about. We also want to serve through this group as a communicator of best practices and knowledge to others in the state who might be interested in or impacted by energy codes. And that would include the general public. It's worth noting that when we created this group, we wanted to reach out to a diverse group of stakeholders. And we know that many of you might come to the table with different experiences, different data, different perspectives. And we welcome that. Ultimately, we're expecting that everyone, though, is going to be contributing towards our shared goal of advancing building energy efficiency across the state. So with that, unless anyone has any questions or comments at this point, I'll hand things off to a few of my colleagues to provide some updates on other things we're working on through our Recce project. Right. So I think this may have been Darren, but Cynthia, would you be able to possibly take this slide?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can drop a link in the chat, or if anyone has it handy from the project team. As a part of the project, we are working on resources for stakeholders or associated with the with energy code. So we have some of these resources already listed on our website. We have a fact sheet on Wisconsin rulemaking and the code adoption process. We have a fact sheet on stakeholder interviews that were conducted earlier last year. And we also have fact sheets on the 2021 and 2024 model energy codes. And on the next on the slate is a fact sheet on non-energy benefits and Codes 101. So please take a look if any of those resources interest you, or if you have ideas, reach out.
Great, thanks,
Next
Cynthia.
slide. Yeah, I think that's John.
Yeah, I've got this one. So as part of our project, we are still completing our construction baseline studies for single family, multifamily, and residential. So we'll start off with some updates on the single family residential. As of date, we're about 25% complete of our required key measures for the study. We've primarily started in the Dane County area. Now we're expanding out across the state, getting to some areas across eastern part of the state as well as western. We're starting to see some small construction trends that we briefly wanted to share. So maybe if we go to the next slide, we can briefly talk about those. But first, actually, let's go over our sampling plan. So if everybody was here at previous meetings, we have to abide by a sampling plan for our single family residential. So the idea is that we just take samples from where the most construction is happening across the state. So as you can see on the map, the majority of it is in the Dane County area, but as previously stated, we are starting to expand into those other major metro areas. So overall, you have 28 counties we need to get samples from, with a total of 63 sets of data sets. So again, we're about 25% complete there. And with the next slide, we'll talk about what we're starting to see with some major trends. Most notably on the top, before I even go any further, these are just insights right now. They are not facts. They may change over time. So just that as a caveat that this is not set in stone as of right now. But what we're seeing right now in all these homes is the majority of these homes are still being heated by forced air heating, which is fairly standard for Wisconsin and expected. The interesting thing that we're finding currently is that all of the homes that we've tested for air tightness is actually below the 3 air changes per hour that is required in the 2012 IECC. So every home we've tested so far, regardless of builder, is meeting that threshold. And then just a couple items that have sort of piqued our interest. One of them is our duct leakage to outside measurements. So when we are doing a duct blaster test, we're getting a total duct leakage and a duct leakage to outside. We're seeing some interesting numbers on the duct leakage to outside. So we're going to be keeping some eyes on that and see how that progresses throughout the study. And the other thing that we've been noting is that when we're going into attics, we're seeing some varied installation and amounts of installation on the attic access panel. So two things we're keeping an eye on, and things might progress into something else that we haven't even encountered yet. So more to come. Again, we're only 25% of the way through on the single family. So we hope to have some more updates at the next meeting. Next slide. As far as our data collection for the new construction of our commercial and multifamily baseline studies, essentially we're around 10% complete through both of those right now. The idea is that we keep, there's a quote in the chat, we keep progressing on this as well. We still have 9 buildings that are going through the preliminary process. So we're doing energy code checks, we are doing you're reviewing plans. So those still have not had site visits as of yet. So yeah, we expect that to progress going through as well. So I think that's it. So, and then finally, just as a final note, we are always recruiting buildings for this study. So if anybody knows any builders, any designers, anything in your area where if somebody wants to participate, please go to our website and the link, or share this with anybody in your contacts. We need buildings. We'll probably be recruiting buildings even after the study is complete, because it's just ingrained in us now. So again, go to the link. We'll have more about this as we progress in the study as well. All right, I think that's it for me.
Thanks, John. I'll pass things off to Bill.
Thank you very much. And as you can see, with I'm Bill Dieter with PSD, and we provide the Energy Code Technical Advisor portion of the program. And as you can see by the screen, our past training sessions, we have recordings available for all of those that have been conducted to date. And to date, 1,584 participants have attended since December of 2024. And this has also been due to a repeat of some of the courses, and more popular courses. And this includes the in-person, the virtuals, as well as the duct blaster and blower door tightness demonstrations. Some of the titles that we've gone through are just the residential and commercial energy code overview, as it's written in Wisconsin, and then some building science courses related to HVAC, residential HVAC systems, which this course will be conducted. I will be presenting that again tomorrow morning, but as well as heating and insulation and filtration and air sealing, some very, very important parts of building science as it relates to residential construction. We also have a 3-hour UDC residential energy code review, where we look through every chapter and subchapter within the UDC as it's written. And then just 2 courses for commercial that involve mechanical systems as well as lighting systems for larger commercial buildings. Just recently, we wrapped up 7 sessions in the field for the building infiltration and duct tightness demonstration. As you can see, 39 attendees at 3 different sites around the state, or 4 different sites around the state. It was quite eye-opening for some of those in attendance that had actually never seen a building infiltration or duct tightness test being conducted. Can we go to the next slide, please? And tomorrow, the 18th, we have the residential HVAC program. That's going to be from 9 to 10:30. You can still register. And on June 25th, to round out the first budget period with the contract with us, on June 25th is going to be the multifamily construction and the energy code. Differences and similarities between residential and commercial methods of construction, just a 1-hour session. You can register at the wienergycodes.org right up until the beginning of the programs. And the recordings will be posted there as well for future reference.
How are these being advertised? I frankly haven't heard that these were going on.
They're being email blasted by our advertising department. They've been sent through building code inspectors, as well as being posted on the Wisconsin Energy Code's website and a few other avenues that I know of. So the majority of the attendees have been building code inspectors around the state.
Torrance.
Torrance, was that you? Okay. We'll try to figure out a better way it's good feedback that you haven't heard of them. So we'll try to figure out how to better
Surprises
advertise.
me. I mean, so, I get a lot from Slipstream, so maybe I, missed on one of my emails or what have you, but yeah, I wasn't aware.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks, Torrance. And yeah, thanks, Bill.
Sure.
Okay, so if you haven't visited it already, it's already been mentioned a couple of times today, but our team has put together a website to share pretty much everything we're working on as it pertains to Wisconsin energy codes. So that's the wisconsinenergycodes.org website. It hosts information about how to get involved with our baseline studies, how to connect with our energy code technical advisors, like Bill was just mentioning, and then also how to attend and access those upcoming trainings, as well as resources and materials we're putting together, like the ones Cynthia mentioned earlier. We encourage you to visit the website, contact us with any questions or areas where our team can help you out. And then also, to share that website with others that might be interested in learning more about building energy codes or receiving technical assistance from our team. And I think that Cynthia already did drop a link in the chat to that. So yeah. All right. I'll pass things off to Matt.
Thanks, Sarah. Maybe a bit to Torrance's point about not getting all the notifications or information. We are working on a energy codes newsletter for the state of Wisconsin that we're hoping to share a lot of useful information about the code update process, upcoming trainings and past trainings, and the other resources that the RECCE project is working on. So keep an eye out for that in your inbox if you haven't received it or didn't receive it the first time, and we've got another one coming out in a couple days. If you don't receive that one, head to that website to sign up. Yeah, but it's just a great spot to stay up to date on all the energy code happenings in Wisconsin.
All right, thanks, Matt. So we'll move on to just a quick recap of the UDCC and CBS meetings that have happened since our last meeting in March, and I'll pass things off to Jeanette.
All right. So I was actually curious of the group that is here without the project team, but if you by raise of hands, which of you all have actually attended any of these meetings? So UDC, or if you could drop in the chat. I know some of you are actually members of these committees, the councils, so that would definitely explain certain things. But Uniform Dwelling Code Council has met for 3 times since March, so March, April, May. There's monthly meetings happening. Our next meeting is in a couple of weeks. I think the plan for I think we're still in process of planning, but there is going to be presentations. We gave a presentation. Darren Port, our energy code advisor, who can't make it today at this meeting, gave a presentation at the last meeting. That was, I guess, June 6th meeting. Now that I'm thinking about it, where we compared the 2021 and the 2024 International Energy Code. The other meeting worth mentioning, and I see people dropping things in the chat, so or people raising their hands, which is very helpful. The Wisconsin Advisory Council on Building Sustainability has been meeting on a quarterly basis. We, through the project team, have been presenting on several topics. Just this past meeting, we provided an overview on the 2024 IACC. We also previously had the Pacific Northwest National Lab Wisconsin cost analysis that was created for the state of Wisconsin. We provided an overview of that. There is a link at the bottom of this page. They are open to the public. Anybody can walk, or attend. Usually they're virtual, and they are one of the primary aspects of how we as a project team are supporting the efforts around energy codes development in Wisconsin. If you want to go to the next slide. or if there's any questions about that. This I think we shared previously, and it's also in this link below, although I don't think this is the active link. It's also it's on the Wisconsin Energy Code's website. But this gives us a really bird's eye view of where we are in the residential code adoption process. The star is kind of where we're at right now. You know, this process, this part of the process, this long blue line at the drafting new rule and code is the longest and most substantial portion of the rulemaking process. And this is a point where we are, you know, wanting to make sure that we are providing technical assistance and technical resources that will help improve the process and give full information to make a decision. So we're in month 5 for a long process, and you know, we'll keep talking about especially through the Codes Collaborative, we'll keep talking about ways that this group can help support that process as well. And if you haven't attended any of those meetings, I encourage you to attend because it's an interesting process.
All right. Thanks, Jeanette. Before we move on, is there any questions, comments kind of related to the UDCC and CBS updates that Jeanette just provided? All right, hearing nothing, I think we'll turn things over to Matt to give an update on the commercial code.
Thanks, Sarah. I know many of the folks who attend these meetings are primarily focused on commercial buildings, and just wanted to share some information about the commercial code update process. This first slide is just doing a bit of level setting. So the Department of Safety and Professional Services went through the rulemaking process that you saw on the last slide Jeanette presented with the commercial code, and submitted that rule to the legislature, which included the 2021 IECC. That went to the Joint Committee for Review of Administrative Rules, or JCRAR, and they made the decision to suspend the rule indefinitely. And that, in effect, blocks the rule, and without challenge to that authority, would just make it not go into effect. Next slide, please. In response to JCRAR blocking the commercial building code and other administrative rules, the governor, Governor Evers, challenged the constitutionality of these indefinite suspensions or indefinite objections based on a separation of powers argument. The Supreme Court held oral argument for the building codes issue and one other issue in January of 2025. And we are expecting a decision any day. I gambled a little bit on this presentation, presuming we may have a decision before today, but we don't. It's really unusual for the Supreme Court to issue their decisions after the first week of July. So we are really expecting it to be pretty soon, but we just don't know yet. But we have some idea of what might happen based on the oral arguments. If you could go to the next slide. So I just want to do a quick caveat that this slide is based on conversations that I had with Clean Wisconsin's legal staff. So this isn't the project team. This is just the idea that Clean Wisconsin has from watching the oral argument. But that watching the oral argument in this case strongly suggests that indefinite objections from committees like JCRAR are likely to be ruled unconstitutional. It's unclear how much further the court will go, but depending on whether or not the decision is retroactive or not, meaning if it applies to things that were already blocked through indefinite suspension, we could have a new commercial building code sooner or later, but the Clean Wisconsin legal team feels at least somewhat optimistic that the commercial building code will become law. And I think it's worth having a conversation in this group about what the folks in the industry might need moving forward to move to the 2021 IBC and IECC. So that's what we know so far, and I'm interested if any would be happy to respond to any questions that you all might have. We'll try to. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
So are you suggesting that if it plays out this way, the package that was forwarded to the legislature back in 2023, I think, would actually, they wouldn't revisit that, DISPIS wouldn't revisit that, it would be approved and become effective, however, whatever timeline they develop, without any revisiting, since there's a 2024 code that's now been issued?
Thanks for that question, Joe. The answer is somewhat unsatisfying, which is that we really aren't, it's not really clear what's going to happen if the ruling comes down as we think it will. We are really going to need more, we need to see the decision before we can understand just how it might work out. But one possibility would be that the Supreme Court makes this decision and makes it retroactive, meaning that the suspension on the building code rule is declared unlawful and therefore could become law without review. I think that is perhaps unlikely, just because I think what is most likely to happen is that DSPS will have to go through another rulemaking process and bring it to JCRAR, and then they won't. That legislative committee won't have this option to suspend the rule indefinitely, but they'll have other options. So, yeah, one thing that could happen is what is maybe what you suggested, Joe. And I think personally that would be cool, but I think it's probably more on the unlikely side. But I think it's worth thinking about what the buildings community might need if we move forward.
Well, one could argue, based on however the Supreme Court ruling reads, they've got the package all ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And theoretically, it could be submitted as is, and they could still, the Commercial Building Code Council, could still reconvene as they always do and start looking at the new codes and begin that 30-month process for for new rulemaking for the building code. But on some level, you could say this would streamline things. They already got the package ready to go, good, bad, or indifferent, whether who's ever got heartburn with it, it's there. It's been through public comment, and that it, some level you could hope it could be a pretty streamlined process, and then we can look at the 2024 code, and probably by that time the 2027 code. So.
Yeah, good point, Joe. Any other thoughts or questions on this? I will just also add that this is going to be one of the topics of conversation in the breakout rooms when we get there. for the commercial.
All right. Yeah, like you said, Matt, we can definitely continue that conversation in the breakout rooms. And that would actually be just about now. Yeah, so we'll take some time to just break out into subcommittees. I do want to mention that based off the poll results that we just got back, there wasn't really much interest at all kind of in the public interests group amongst those who are attending today. It's something we might possibly revisit in future meetings, but for today, I think we're just going to stick with the residential and the commercial groups, since we got a good number of folks interested in both of those. I'll open the breakout rooms shortly, and you'll be able to select which room you want to go into. If you have any issues or needs help with that, I'll be in the main room and I can help guide you or move you into a room. But hopefully it's seamless jumping into the room you want to go into. And while in those rooms, if there's like Matt mentioned, if there's additional follow-up from either the UDCC conversation that Jeanette had or the commercial code, feel free to, continue to discuss that, especially because I think we do actually have a bit more time than we were allotting. So we do have some time to, continue those conversations. But the main goal for today's subcommittee meetings is really to begin to identify one or two key priorities, whether it be a specific resource or some sort of action that your group can take and choose to develop over the next several of these meetings. So really thinking about what's the most important thing that you as a group can do to advance building energy codes that's also feasible to accomplish over a series of group meetings across the next few months. The Recce project team might be able to serve as a resource to help coordinate, support the development of those resources to really reduce the lift on you all, but at the same time, in terms of maybe helping with drafting, revising, brainstorming, this is intended to be a group effort and really reflect your voices and your experiences that you have seen out in the field. So something else you might want to talk through in your breakout rooms, and we have moderators from the project team that will be asking this question, but is really whether you would be interested in possibly setting up like an hour-long session sometime later this summer or in early fall to regroup with your subcommittee and continue the work that you've started. So that would be something to maybe spend a couple minutes talking about. Are there any questions before we jump into those breakout rooms?
Sarah, I just have a quick question, which is when should we plan to be back?
Oh, yes, great question. So we will probably wrap up come back together as a group, maybe 8 to 10 minutes before close. So around, I guess that would be 3:20-ish.
Okay.
I'll put like I think one of those announcements out to the group so we can help gauge timing. Good question, Matt.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, yeah, I guess we'll mention we're hoping to have a little bit of time to just report back out on those priorities that your group's identified. So if someone wants to take that and be the speaker and the share router to the group, that would be great. But for now, I'm gonna open up those rooms. I'm actually just getting rid of our public interest room for this meeting. But I will open the 2 residential and commercial. And yeah, let me know if you need help jumping into a room. All right, they should be open.
This is Torrance. I guess I need help. I have no idea how to get over to a room.
Sounds good. Which room were you interested in going into?
I'm open to either commercial or residential. I got interest in both of them.
All right. Do you have a preference for now? You can also move between. That could be an option.
I would say commercial.
Commercial. All right. should be able to just assign you in. Okay, you should jump there in a second.
Good, thanks.
All right.
Where would you like
And
me to go? Or
you can go to either because you're supposed to be in
Loading.
the confused. So whichever one you would prefer. Hey Doug, do you need assistance jumping into a room?
Nicole came back.
Right. Hi Nicole. Thanks for joining today. Glad to have you on. Is there one of those two rooms that you would like to be jumped into? I can do it from my end. All right.
They're on mute, maybe. I might jump into the residential.
Sounds good.
So I'm gonna head over there now.
Great. Hi Nicole.
Hey, I don't have any way to get any.
Yeah, no worries. It's kind of a Teams isn't the best. Do you have a preference for residential or commercial?
I can go to either one.
All right. Um, right now we have one less person in residential, if that works for you.
Sure, that's fine.
Great. Okay, you should be joining there in just a second.
Okay.
Ben?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back.
Hi, Sarah.
I'm gonna reshare my screen. Hope you all had some good conversation. All right, do we have everyone? It looks like we may. I think we do. All right, so I'll just move to our next slide. Yeah, I hope that the first kind of attempt at these subcommittee meetings went well. I was kind of monitoring the chats and it looked like there was some good discussion. So yeah. For our wrap up, one thing we were hoping to kind of hear, and it might be interesting for either subcommittee to hear, would be just kind of what priorities or action items, or even just like key takeaways from your group that might be worth sharing with those who participated in the other subcommittee. So I don't know if someone from the project team or maybe some other attendees would like to jump in and share.
I can share out from the commercial breakout room. I told them I wasn't going to make any of them share out.
That's fair.
Yeah, but some of the things that we talked about were just the basis of the objection to the commercial code from JCRAR and what the code update, future code update processes might be like. Where do we stand right now? And it seemed like any interest in future or additional meetings are pretty dependent on the outcome of the court case. Because if there's work to be done, there's interest in doing that work, but it is tricky not knowing really where we stand. Some of the resources that we talked about were just some information about special inspections and the cost impact that that chapter of the code might have, as well as blower door testing and the impacts that might have on a commercial builder or developer, as well. And then commissioning was a third thing that we talked about, as far as like just pulling together some more information that might be useful to the JCRAR if it goes back there, or future meetings. And then just finally the desire to engage with stakeholders outside of the buildings industry, but who are impacted by the building stock in Wisconsin. So realtors, insurance, and users, the people who occupy buildings. So those are some of the areas that the committee was, subcommittee was interested in looking into.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That sounds great. And yeah, hopefully we'll hear something or we'll have some update over the next few days or couple of weeks as to what will happen with commercial. But yeah, I mean, I think that we can definitely be flexible with, especially in this particular situation, when it might make the most sense to meet and when there might be, when it might be the most appropriate to, start to develop resources. So I think that all sounds good and makes sense. Thanks, Matt. And then from the residential side, any updates?
Yes, we had a great discussion on the residential side. So we briefly talked about what the process of the UDCC, what that looks like, that timeline, the lengthy timeline, what it means for the committee. We talked about if there is any discussion, if Wisconsin were to move from the UDC to the IRC, is that something that's feasible? Is that something that's desired? And we also discussed what it would mean for Wisconsin to implement the 2021 versus the 2024 energy code. So some great discussion on that. We talked about what it means for training across the state, implementation of a new code, how that will affect builders, contractors, how it will affect your code officials, all the above. So with that as a backdrop, we started to think about some resources. One thing that kept coming up was like a FAQ, the type of documents that can be delivered to your various stakeholders across the state. So builders, your code officials, all the above, about what it would mean if either Wisconsin were to move to the IRC, or what it would mean if it were to adopt the 2021 versus the 2024. If it's costs, if it's trainings, if it's your feasibility, if it's all of those things. So looking more for just like a FAQ type of document that can be easily delivered across the state. We talked about also perhaps even engaging more with stakeholders. So what that might look like is to be determined, but maybe targeting specific industries like across the energy code sector. So maybe like a targeted blast towards code officials, and then next building officials, and then next contractors. So what does that mean for them? We didn't get a chance to talk about meeting in July or August. We unfortunately ran out of time. And I don't know if we have enough members to really discuss that right now, Sarah. So I think that will be put on hold for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, thanks, John. That all sounds good. And I think that, especially given the update Matt gave, like if maybe we can, we'll revisit kind of what a second meeting or, our next like smaller focused subcommittee meetings will look like down the road. So it's something that we will reach back out the project team will reach back out and kind of revisit that maybe in the next few weeks. But yeah, thanks, John. That all sounds like it would be great. Great progress. So yeah, appreciate both rooms. It sounds like, yeah, there was great discussion, and it's exciting, I think, to move into the more action-oriented part of the Codes Collaborative and less away from the background. So excited to kind of see that starting to pick up a bit. Anything else just before we move on? We only have a couple more things here, so we can probably get out of here just a few minutes early, but if there's nothing else, I can just move to kind of our next steps. So our next full Wisconsin Codes Collaborative meeting will likely take place in September or October. A reminder that we decided to hold these on a quarterly basis. So that would be when the next one would come up. And then, yeah, like we just mentioned, we will reach out about coordinating subcommittees when it might make more sense. But hopefully that's something that we can use, maybe not even this summer, but moving forward to, push along some of those resources and actions. So, yeah. And then I'll hand things off to Emma to talk a little bit about the MIA Codes Conference that will be coming up this fall.
Cool, thanks, Sarah. So yeah, hopefully some of you have heard of or attended in the past our annual Midwest Building Energy Codes Conference. This year we're super excited to be having it in Milwaukee in September. So right now we're still planning the conference, but in the past we've had both trainings and tours before the conference, the day before the official conference sessions. And so currently we're looking for ideas for these. So last year we held the conference in Cincinnati and had a training on the 2021 and 2024 IECC. And then we also had a tour of a historic building that had like an energy efficient renovation done to it. So those are the types of things that we're looking for. And I think you guys are the perfect group, being in Wisconsin, having knowledge of this industry in the area. So if you have ideas for a cool building we could tour, or a topic that you think people would really benefit from a training on, would love to hear them. And then we'll also be following up, I think, through the newsletter when registration is available for the conference. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Emma. All right. And then if nothing else, we can wrap up 5 minutes early. So yeah, thank you all. Oh, go for it, Matt.
Sorry, Evelyn just mentioned the best way to share additional ideas about the discussion we had. Sarah, do you have any thoughts about best way to?
Yeah, I guess one option would be you can email myself or the project team. And yeah, it might be worth considering ways, especially if we're not going to be meeting, if we're going to be meeting on a quarterly basis, or even with subcommittees meeting more on a bi-monthly basis, it might be worth thinking about like a more established platform where we could, exchange ideas, like maybe a Slack channel or something like that, so we can keep the conversation going in the off months. So I think that's a great point, Evelyn. Yeah, for now, without having put much thought into it, I would say feel free to send us an email, but I think that's something that's good feedback that our team can take, and we could try and create more of a established platform for sharing ideas and such.
If I can weigh in on a couple ideas, just a thought is probably we will send a follow-up email. I assume there are people that weren't able to make this particular meeting but still want to be involved. I assume we'll send a follow-up email, Sarah, and that might probably come from you. You could follow up, Evelyn, you can respond to that email. We may want to actually, reach out and invite people to the subcommittees specifically, and then see if we do want to meet, because I know John said we weren't able to get to a conclusion on whether it makes sense to meet again between now and September. So just a couple of thoughts. We could, think about a follow-up email. We also toyed the idea of meeting in person at the Codes conference in Milwaukee. So, we could float that as a possibility, because it is nice that it's in our backyard and obviously around codes. So it's like there couldn't be a more perfect time to meet in person in a very virtual world. So
yeah, it sounds like a great idea, Jeanette. Cool. All right. Anything else before we sign off? All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining today. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks,
Have a
Sarah.
good day.